The world above had long forgotten the research facility that lay buried beneath layers of concrete and steel. Time had done its work well. Nature had begun to reclaim the edges of the compound, with small vines creeping through cracks and moss softening the harsh lines of machinery. The name of the place was lost to history, just as the scientists who had worked there had vanished from memory. Inside one of the facility's deepest chambers, a single cryogenic pod hummed softly. Its smooth metal surface reflected the dim glow of emergency lights, blinking on a schedule to slow for anyone awake to notice. Inside, HFY War lay in frozen suspension, completely unaware of the centuries that had passed since he had been placed there. The decision to enter the pod had been simple, almost mundane, at the time. Elias had been a brilliant scientist, obsessed with the possibility of life beyond Earth. He volunteered for a long-duration experiment to study the effects of cryogenic sleep on human biology. It was supposed to be a brief, controlled trial, just a few months at most. But nothing about the world had remained controlled. A catastrophic failure had sealed the facility, leaving him alone in a tomb of his own making. Outside, the Earth continued its slow rotation, untroubled by the fate of the man beneath the ground. Cities grew, civilizations rose and fell, and yet Elias slept on, oblivious to the passage of time. Deep in space, far from the now silent Earth, a sensor array aboard an Aurelian scouting vessel detected an anomaly. The Aurelians, a race of beings whose forms shimmered like liquid crystal and whose minds were older than most stars, had been monitoring this sector for centuries. They had long suspected that remnants of the ancient human race might exist somewhere in the galaxy, but no one had ever expected to find a single, solitary pod drifting silently in orbit. Queen Arathiel, the ruler of the Aurelian dominion, was intrigued. Her eyes, like pools of shifting light, lingered on the strange energy reading the pod emitted. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, a faint pulse of bioenergy unlike anything in the Dominion's archives. The scientists had no explanation, yet the Queen felt certainty in her intuition. This human, whoever he was extraordinary. Back on Earth, the facility's long-dormant systems suddenly flickered to life. Sensors beeped and recorded, unaware of the significance of what they had found. The pod's cooling systems stabilized, then gradually began the reversal process. Elias stirred, slowly at first, as if awakening from a dream he could not quite remember. His eyes opened to the soft glow of unfamiliar lights. At first, he thought it was a malfunction of his own mind. The walls were not as he remembered. The machinery hummed differently. There was no one there, only a faint mist curling through the chamber, reflecting the soft luminescence from the ceiling. Elias struggled to remember why he was there. His mind, foggy from decades in stasis, grasped at fragments: the experiment, the pod, the facility. A sense of purpose that had once been urgent. He pushed himself upright, muscles stiff but functional, and touched the walls, tracing the cold metal with his fingers. Everything was intact, yet alien. Even the air tasted different, fresher and sharper than he recalled. Then came the voice, soft, musical, almost vibrating through the air rather than coming from a source human. It said, "Awaken." Elias froze, uncertain whether he had imagined it. But the voice came again, clearer this time. "Do not be afraid." Before him, a doorway shimmered into existence. Shapes moved inside, almost like light and shadow dancing together. Elias's instincts screamed caution, but curiosity, the very trait that had driven him into the pod decades ago, pushed him forward. As he stepped through the doorway, the chamber beyond opened into a vast hall. It was enormous, far larger than anything Earth architecture could create. Crystals jutted from the walls like frozen rivers, and the floor glowed faintly beneath his feet, illuminating a path that seemed to guide him forward. In the center of the hall, a figure waited. Queen Arathiel stepped forward, and Elias could feel her presence before he even saw her clearly. She moved with grace that seemed impossible, her form shimmering and flowing like water caught in light. Her eyes were fixed on him, but there was no judgment there, only a deep, curious intelligence. "You are awake," she said, her voice resonating in his chest. "And you have been chosen." Elias swallowed hard, trying to comprehend. Chosen for what? He asked, his voice hoarse after so long in silence. To help us, she replied simply. The stars themselves are in danger. There is a force ancient and unstable that threatens to unravel what we have built across the galaxy. Your species, your mind, it carries the key we have been seeking. Elias laughed, though it was tinged with disbelief. Me, I'm just human. I'm no one special. Queen Arathiel tilted her head, as if studying him more closely than ever before. That is exactly why you are special. Humans have a quality we have not seen in millennia: adaptability, resilience, and the ability to see solutions where others see impossibility. You awaken when others would sleep. You act when others hesitate. Elias's heart raced. The words were strange, almost overwhelming, yet a spark of something deep within him stirred a sense of purpose, long forgotten, that had survived centuries of stillness over the next hours, or perhaps days it was difficult to measure time in the crystalline hall. He was guided through the workings of the Aurelian Dominion. Though the alien architecture was unlike anything on Earth, Elias adapted quickly. He learned to interact with the glowing interfaces, to understand the logic of their star maps, and to comprehend the subtle rhythms of their energy networks. The Queen watched silently, impressed. Even the Aurelian scientists had not expected such rapid assimilation. Elias asked questions, probed systems, and made connections that had eluded their centuries-old minds. He was human, yes, but humans had always been unpredictable in their brilliance, and yet, even as he adapted, Elias remained wary. He had been alone for centuries. He had no memory of humanity beyond what history and records could tell him. And now, thrust into a galaxy filled with beings older and wiser than himself, he felt both insignificant and essential all at once. You will not be alone, Queen Arathiel assured him one evening, her voice echoing softly in the hall. We will guide you, but you must also guide us. Your perspective, your humanity, it is needed. More than you know. Elias nodded, uncertain but compelled. He realized that the centuries of sleep had not robbed him of his purpose, they had only postponed it. Now, awakened, he could face a universe he had never imagined and perhaps leave a mark far greater than any human before him. As he settled into the first night in the alien chamber, he looked up at the vast expanse of crystal and light. Stars beyond comprehension stretched across unseen skies. The weight of solitude that had haunted him in the pod melted away, replaced by the strange, exhilarating feeling of destiny. He was no longer alone, and the universe had taken notice, and somewhere deep inside, a spark of human determination flickered. The same spark that had carried his species through millennia of challenges, of wars, of survival against impossible odds, now stirred again. Elias Ward, once a solitary scientist asleep beneath the earth, had awakened to something far greater. He had been chosen not because he was powerful or perfect or even wise, but because he was human. And for reasons he did not yet understand, humanity might be the key to saving the stars themselves. The Queen's eyes observed him, calm yet piercing. Tomorrow, she said, we begin your training. And then, your journey. Elias took a deep breath, feeling the first true breath of freedom in centuries. He did not yet know what lay ahead, but for the first time in his long life, he felt ready. The hum of the pod, the silence of Earth, the long years of isolation, they were all behind him now. The stars awaited Dot, and humanity, through him, would rise again. The first days in the Aurelian Dominion were disorienting for Elias Ward. The crystalline hallways stretched farther than the eye could see, glowing with an inner light that shifted in color and intensity like living rainbows. The air hummed with energy, carrying faint whispers of thought and memory from the ancient race that had built this vast empire. Queen Arathiel watched him closely as he moved through the halls, adapting faster than even her most optimistic expectations. Her people, elegant beings whose forms shimmered like flowing liquid crystal, had always prided themselves on intelligence and long lifespans. Yet Elias's speed of understanding, his way of connecting ideas and patterns, was unlike anything they had encountered in centuries. Do you understand what you are seeing? She asked, her voice soft yet commanding, echoing gently through the chamber. Elias paused and glanced around. It's been incredible. I've never seen anything like it, but yes, I think I can understand it. Good, she said. You will need that understanding. The stars themselves are in danger, and you, human, may be the key to saving them. Elias swallowed. The words were heavy, but not frightening. Something deep within him, the spark that had always driven humans to explore, to survive, to adapt, stirred. Why me? He asked. There are countless other humans, aren't there? Queen Arathiel tilted her head. Your species is believed to be extinct in most records. You are one of the last, perhaps the only one remaining. But it is not your uniqueness alone that matters. It is your mind, your ability to perceive solutions, to adapt, to see beyond the limits of the obvious. That is what makes you chosen. The word echoed in Elias's mind. He had never thought of himself in such a way, and yet, the weight of centuries of isolation gave him a strange readiness. He had survived alone, adapted to silence and stillness, and now he was being called to do something far greater than himself. Queen Arathiel gestured toward a corridor lined with glowing panels. Come, I will show you what we face. It is difficult to explain, but you must understand it fully. Elias followed, his footsteps quiet against the crystalline floor. The walls shifted, displaying images that seemed to float in the air rather than appear on screens. Star systems, nebulae, and swirling currents of energy filled his vision. He realized that these images were alive, in a sense interactive, responding to his gaze and movements. The galaxy is not as stable as it appears, the Queen said. There is an anomaly of force we cannot yet comprehend that destabilizes entire star systems. Stars flicker, planets shift, and in some cases, entire civilizations vanish. Our brightest minds have studied it for centuries, but we have found no solution. Elias frowned, leaning closer to the floating images. But you must have tried something, he said. Some kind of experiment or device? Yes, Queen Arathiel replied. Many. We have attempted containment fields, energy stabilizers, and temporal dampeners. All have failed, and yet, your species, humans, once possessed a method we cannot replicate. There are records, fragments preserved in our archives, that suggest humans had a unique resonance with the energy of stars. You may be able to sense it, or control it. Elias felt a shiver run down his spine. The idea that humans had once influenced cosmic energy seemed impossible, almost like a myth. And yet, seeing the certainty in the Queen's eyes, he realized this was no mere legend. Somehow, he had been preserved, alone in his pod, so that he could awaken at exactly the right time. How am I supposed to do that? He asked. I don't even know how it works. You will learn, Arathiel said. And you will teach us, human. This is why you are chosen. Your mind works differently. Where we see complexity, you may see simplicity. Where we see limits, you may see opportunity. That is the essence of humanity, your adaptability, your persistence, your ingenuity. The words sank into Elias's mind like seeds. He remembered the long years in the pod, the silence, the stillness, the endless waiting. He had survived because he never gave up, because he adapted. And now, that very trait, the essence of what it meant to be human, was exactly what the galaxy needed. Over the next days, the Queen introduced Elias to the Dominion's greatest minds. Scientists, engineers, historians, and strategists, all beings whose lifespans were measured in centuries, gathered to observe him. They were polite but skeptical, uncertain if a human could truly help them. Elias, however, did not falter. He asked questions, observed patterns, and began to suggest ideas that none of them had considered. It was small things at first, a rearrangement of energy conduits, a new method to stabilize readings, a more efficient way to coordinate the star maps. But each suggestion worked, and each success made the observers take note. One of the senior scientists, a being named Varen, approached the Queen one day. She is remarkable, he said. Her understanding is unusual. He sees connections we do not, Arathiel nodded. That is why he is chosen. Humans are unpredictable, and that is their strength. Predictability is what has limited us for centuries. Elias continued to explore the Dominion's systems, discovering things even Arathiel had not expected. In the archives, he found records of ancient humans who had once traveled the stars, leaving traces of technology and knowledge that had fascinated the Aurelians. Many of the devices had long since ceased functioning, but their principles endured. Elias began to see how they could be adapted, improved, and used to stabilize the cosmic anomaly. One evening, as he worked alongside Arathiel in the central chamber, he paused to look out through the vast crystalline windows. The stars stretched endlessly before him, glittering in ways that reminded him of home, but also of the vast unknown. "Do you ever wonder what your species was like?" Arathiel asked quietly, almost to herself. Elias thought for a moment. "I do. I wonder if humans were really as remarkable as these records say, or if it's just stories that grew bigger over time." "Humans were remarkable," she said firmly, "not because of strength or speed or even intelligence alone, but because of your ability to endure, to adapt, to act when circumstances are impossible. That is why you survived, Elias Ward. That is why you were preserved. That is why you are chosen now." Elias felt a mixture of pride and humility. It was overwhelming to think of himself as the last hope, yet he also felt a strange clarity. Centuries of isolation had honed his patience, his observation skills, and his capacity to adapt. He was ready, in a way that no one else could have been. The next challenge came quickly. The Queen activated a simulation of the anomaly, a swirling mass of energy that bent space and light unnaturally. The Aurelians had attempted to contain it for centuries with no success. The simulation was intricate, showing how entire star systems might be affected if the anomaly spread. Elias studied it, his mind working through patterns and possibilities. He realized that the Dominion's methods, while advanced, were limited by their long lifespans and cautious thinking. They approached problems methodically, rarely taking risks. Humans, however, could improvise, make leaps of intuition, and act decisively. "I think I see a way," Elias said, pointing at the simulation. "If we redirect the resonance through a series of nodes, not just one or two, but a network, it could stabilize the flow. But we'll have to adjust constantly. There's no fixed solution." The Queen's eyes widened. "You propose a dynamic system, controlled by intuition?" "Yes," Elias replied. "It's risky, but it might work. The anomaly reacts unpredictably. We need someone who can adapt in real time. That's why." Arathiel nodded, impressed. "Then we shall begin. You will teach us, and together we will confront what threatens the stars." Elias looked at the Queen, feeling a surge of determination. For centuries he had slept, isolated, and forgotten. Now he was awake, chosen, and faced with a challenge greater than anything he had imagined. The stars were in peril, but he was ready to act. And in that moment, Elias Ward realized that being human, being adaptable, resilient, and unafraid of the impossible was not a limitation. It was the greatest strength he possessed. The next days would be long and difficult. The training, the learning, the preparation, they were only the beginning. But for the first time in his life, Elias felt the true weight of purpose. The galaxy had chosen him, and he would rise to meet it somewhere deep in the Dominion. Queen Arathiel watched him, knowing that a human spark, once awakened, could change the fate of countless worlds. Elias Ward had slept for centuries, but now he was awake, and the universe would never be the same. Elias Ward had learned much since his awakening. He had absorbed the knowledge of the Aurelian Dominion, adapting quickly to their complex systems, their strange technologies, and their ancient ways of thinking. Yet, despite all he had studied, the galaxy outside the crystal walls remained unpredictable and dangerous. The anomaly Queen Arathiel had warned him about had grown worse. Sensors showed that entire star systems on the edge of Aurelian space were flickering and vanishing, consumed by a strange distortion of energy. Ships sent to investigate had not returned. Civilizations, once flourishing, were now lost in a matter of weeks. Elias stood at the observation deck, looking out at the swirling lights of a distant cluster. "It's spreading faster than I expected," he said quietly, almost to himself. The simulation exercises had prepared him only partially. This was reality. The energy was unpredictable, violent, and alive in a way that defied conventional logic. Queen Arathiel joined him, her shimmering form reflecting the starry expanse. "Yes," she said. "Even our oldest calculations underestimated the speed. The anomaly adapts to any attempt at containment. Our scientists are at a loss." Elias took a deep breath. "Then we need to think differently. The methods you've tried, they all treat it like a problem to be solved with fixed rules. But this, it's alive. It reacts. We need something flexible, something dynamic." Arathiel raised her eyebrows. "You mean a human solution?" He nodded. "Exactly, humans. We improvise. We adapt. We see patterns that others might miss. If I can guide your systems in real time, adjust nodes and energy flows as the anomaly changes, we might stabilize it." The Queen studied him, her eyes reflecting both hope and caution. "It is risky, but perhaps the risk is necessary." The next day, Elias was led to the central control hub of the Dominion starfleet. Towering panels of crystal and metal stretched from floor to ceiling, displaying thousands of star systems, energy currents, and cosmic events in real time. Aurelian scientists gathered, ready to assist, but many were wary of relying on a human to lead the operation. Elias began examining the readings. He noted how the anomaly's energy fluctuated, how it reacted to natural stellar activity, and where small stabilizations could have a ripple effect. Slowly, he began to see a solution, one that required not brute force or massive energy, but careful, intelligent redirection. "I need you to trust me," Elias said, turning to the assembled Aurelians. "I can guide the flow, but I need your systems to be responsive. I'll adjust as we go, and you'll follow my commands." There was silence. Then Varen, one of the senior scientists, stepped forward. "It is unconventional," he said carefully, "but if anyone can succeed, perhaps it is you." Elias nodded. "We don't have time to argue. Every moment we delay, more stars vanish." The operation began. Elias worked at the controls, directing streams of energy through ancient conduits and stabilization nodes. The anomaly reacted instantly, sometimes amplifying his adjustments, other times resisting. It was like trying to ride a wild storm, and every move required intuition, quick thinking, and constant recalculation. The Aurelians followed his commands, amazed at his speed and precision. Systems that had taken centuries to understand now bent to his guidance. Small ripples of stability appeared in the anomaly's flow. Stars that had flickered dim began to shine steadily again, if only briefly. But the anomaly was cunning. It shifted unpredictably, testing every adjustment Elias made. In one system, a star threatened to collapse entirely. Elias redirected energy through an old Aurelian resonance grid, improvising with methods no one had thought to try. The star stabilized, glowing with renewed brilliance, and the scientists around him gasped in awe. "This is incredible," Varen muttered. No one could have predicted these adjustments. Except him, Elias smiled faintly. "Humans are unpredictable. That's why we survive." As the hours passed, the anomaly seemed to recognize resistance. Its energy pulses became erratic, forcing Elias to push his intuition further. He had to anticipate its reactions before they even occurred. Each adjustment required confidence, careful calculation, and a willingness to act without certainty, a human trait that the Aurelians had almost forgotten. By the end of the first cycle, a small region of the anomaly had been stabilized. It was not complete, but it was a beginning. The Dominion scientists, once doubtful, now watched him with reverence. He had shown them that humans were not weak or fragile. They were inventive, resilient, and capable of confronting challenges that even advanced civilizations could not. Queen Arathiel approached him, her form glowing faintly in admiration. "You are extraordinary," she said. "Even our oldest minds could not have imagined such a solution. You have proven humanity is essential to the survival of the stars." Elias shook his head. "I didn't do it alone. Your systems, your knowledge, combined with the way humans think, that's what made it possible." She smiled. Yet it required a human to see the path. The success, however, came with a warning. Sensors detected that the anomaly had not weakened, it had only shifted. Its center, hidden deep within uncharted space, had grown in intensity. The next challenge would be far greater than the first. Elias spent the following days studying patterns, consulting Aurelian records, and planning a journey to confront the heart of the anomaly. He realized that brute force would not work. The anomaly was not just energy, it was intelligence, or at least responsiveness. Only by understanding its patterns, anticipating its movements, and adjusting constantly could it be contained. During this preparation, Elias grew closer to the Queen and her advisors. He learned about Aurelian history, their philosophy, and their approach to governance and science. They had been careful and measured for millennia, but that caution had allowed the anomaly to grow unchecked. Humans, Elias realized, thrived in uncertainty. They adapted, innovated, and took risks. That was their strength. One evening, while observing the stars with Queen Arathiel, Elias spoke quietly. "I never imagined I'd see this," he said. "After centuries of sleeping, I wake to find the galaxy, and it's in danger. I don't even know if humans still exist elsewhere. I'm the last, maybe." The Queen's eyes softened. "Perhaps you are the last of your kind, but your species lives on through what you can do. Your mind, your choices, your courage. That is the true legacy of humanity. And right now, you are what the stars need." Elias looked out at the swirling lights of distant systems, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. It was immense, overwhelming, but also exhilarating. For the first time in centuries, he felt alive, not just awake, but alive with purpose. The moment came when the Dominion assembled a fleet for the journey to the anomaly's center. Starships gleamed like crystal shards, engines humming with anticipation. Elias, guided by intuition and calculation, prepared to lead the mission. The Aurelians deferred to him, recognizing that the survival of countless worlds depended on human adaptability. As the fleet entered the unstable region, the anomaly pulsed violently. Stars flickered, space itself seemed to twist, and strange energy currents threatened to tear the ships apart. But Elias remained calm, directing the fleet through the chaos, adjusting energy flows, and predicting the anomaly's movements. The first trials were terrifying. Ships barely avoided collapsing systems, and energy pulses threatened to overwhelm the conduits. Yet Elias's guidance held. Small victories appeared, a star stabilized here, a planet saved there. Each success reinforced the Aurelians' confidence and deepened their respect for humanity. Finally, as they approached the anomaly's core, Elias paused. He could sense the complexity of the energy, vast, intelligent, unpredictable. This was no longer a simple problem. It required intuition, courage, and the willingness to act without certainty. "This is it," he said to the fleet and the Queen, the core. "If we succeed here, the anomaly will be contained. If we fail, many worlds will be lost." Arathiel nodded. "Then we follow you," Elias Ward. "Lead us. Humanity's spark will guide us." Elias took a deep breath, feeling the immense responsibility. But he also felt something else, the quiet strength that had carried him through centuries of isolation. The spark of humanity, the courage to act, the clarity to see beyond limits. The resilience to endure was alive within him, and as the fleet moved into the heart of the anomaly, Elias realized one thing with certainty: humanity, through him, had a role to play in the survival of the stars. The first battle against the anomaly had begun, and the true test of human ingenuity was about to unfold. The heart of the anomaly was unlike anything Elias had ever imagined. Space twisted in impossible shapes, stars flickered in chaotic patterns, and energy waves pulsed unpredictably, threatening to tear ships apart. The Aurelian fleet, guided by centuries of experience and advanced technology, hovered at the edge of the anomaly, waiting for Elias to direct them. He stood on the bridge of the lead ship, his hands resting lightly on the crystalline controls, eyes scanning the shifting currents of energy. The simulations had prepared him in theory, but the real anomaly was alive. It tested every instinct, every calculation. For a moment, the enormity of responsibility weighed on him. One wrong move, and countless worlds could vanish. Queen Arathiel appeared beside him, her shimmering form steady and confident. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice calm, but her eyes reflecting the tension of what lay ahead. Elias took a deep breath. "I'm ready," he said. "We have no other choice. We act now, or we lose more than we can imagine." The fleet followed his guidance as they entered the anomaly. Energy currents surged around the ships, twisting light and shadow in impossible patterns. Sensors screamed warnings, and the Irelian systems strained under the strain. But Elias remained focused, intuitively predicting the flow of the anomaly, adjusting energy channels, and directing ships around unstable zones. "This is incredible," Varen muttered from his station. He sees the patterns, reacts before the anomaly even shifts. Elias didn't respond. Every second mattered. He redirected energy flows, linking ships in a dynamic network that adapted to the anomaly's movements. Where the Irelians had approached problems with centuries of caution, Elias acted decisively, improvising solutions in real time. But the anomaly was cunning. It pulsed violently, pushing energy spikes through the fleet, threatening to overload shields and destabilize conduits. One pulse shattered a nearby ship's field, sending it spinning into a collapsing star. Elias adjusted immediately, sending compensating energy through neighboring ships, saving them from destruction. Queen Arathiel watched him, her expression both awe-filled and tense. "You are extraordinary," she whispered. "Human ingenuity. It surpasses even our greatest expectations." Elias allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction, but there was no time for pride. The anomaly's core lay ahead, and it was more intense than anything they had encountered. The energy was alive, almost aware, as though testing them, probing their defenses. "I need to do something no one has tried," Elias said. "A direct interface with the core. But it will require the fleet to trust my adjustments completely. We cannot rely on static calculations. We must react as one." The Queen nodded. "We trust you. Humanity's spark guides us." With that, Elias initiated the plan, a specialized Irelian ship, designed for deep energy interaction, moved toward the core. Elias guided it, channeling precise energy flows through its conduits. The ship pulsed with light, matching the rhythm of the anomaly. Around it, the fleet maintained stabilizing fields, adjusting instantly to Elias's commands. The first moments were tense. The anomaly reacted violently, sending surges that threatened to destroy the ship. But Elias remained calm, predicting the fluctuations and countering them with human intuition. The currents shifted, and for the first time, a small section of the anomaly stabilized, forming a calm bubble in the chaos. The Irelians watched in astonishment. "It's working," Varen exclaimed. "He's controlling it, guiding it." Elias did not relax. Every pulse was dangerous. Every misstep could undo their progress. He adjusted energy nodes, redistributed flows, and guided the fleet in a delicate dance. Slowly, carefully, the core began to respond, its violent pulses lessening as Elias's influence grew. Then came the unexpected. The anomaly shifted, reacting unpredictably. A wave of energy surged toward the fleet, threatening to destabilize the entire formation. Elias's hands moved swiftly over the controls, rerouting flows, creating dynamic shields, and improvising pathways for energy to disperse safely. Queen Arathiel's voice rang clear through the bridge. "Elias, you must act now, before it adapts again." He nodded, heart pounding. This was the moment. He focused, trusting instinct over calculation, intuition over protocol. He connected his consciousness to the ship's systems, synchronizing with the energy flows. For a brief moment, he felt the anomaly not as chaos, but as rhythm, a pulse that he could predict, guide, and calm. The fleet responded to his direction like extensions of his own mind. Nodes activated, ships shifted, and energy streams aligned with a precision no one had thought possible. Slowly, the violent pulses diminished. Stars at the edge of the anomaly stabilized. Planets that had flickered in danger now shone steadily. Varen's voice trembled with awe. "He's doing it. He's controlling it," Elias continued, sweat forming on his brow. Body tense but focused. Every second counted. The anomaly's resistance grew, testing his resolve, but he did not falter. He thought not only of calculations, but of possibilities, improvising solutions. Trusting human intuition to guide the vast alien technology, finally, after what felt like hours, the anomaly's core settled. The chaotic pulses slowed to a gentle rhythm, stabilized by Elias's guidance. A calm spread through the region, and the fleet, once strained to the brink, moved freely again. Queen Arathiel stepped forward, her form shimmering with awe and relief. "You have done it, Elias Ward. The anomaly is contained." Elias exhaled, exhaustion and relief washing over him. He had risked everything, relied on instinct and ingenuity, and succeeded. He looked out at the stars, now steady and bright, and felt a surge of pride not for himself, but for humanity. "You have shown us what humans are capable of," the Queen continued. "Your species may be gone, but through you, your spirit lives, and it is stronger than we imagined." Elias smiled faintly. It was never about strength. It was about seeing what others couldn't, acting when others hesitated, adapting when nothing was certain. That is what humans do. The fleet began to stabilize and return to Aurelian space. The anomaly, once a force of destruction, now shimmered peacefully, its energy harnessed and controlled. The Aurelians moved cautiously, checking for signs of instability, but it was clear that Elias's actions had succeeded. As they left the heart of the anomaly, Queen Arathiel placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have done more than we ever dreamed possible. Humanity, through you, has changed the fate of countless worlds." Elias felt a quiet humility. He had acted not out of desire for glory, but because it was the right thing to do. And yet, he could not ignore the thrill of discovery, the exhilaration of applying human ingenuity on a scale he had never imagined. In the days that followed, the Dominion celebrated their victory, though Elias insisted that the credit belonged to all. Yet even as celebrations occurred, he knew this was only the beginning. The anomaly had been stabilized, but its true nature remained a mystery. The core had reacted to him, almost as if it had tested him, and he could not be certain it would not change again. He spent hours in the archives, studying the history of similar anomalies, trying to anticipate what might come next. He realized that being human was both a blessing and a challenge. His ability to adapt, improvise, and act under pressure had saved the fleet, but the universe was vast, unpredictable, and full of threats that required this very ingenuity. One evening, as he stood beside Queen Arathiel, looking out at the calm stars, he spoke softly. "I never thought I'd be here, facing something like this, controlling forces that no one else could. And yet, it feels right. Humans were meant to adapt, to survive, to act when the impossible arises. This is what we do." The Queen nodded, her eyes glowing with understanding. "Yes, Elias. And now you see why you were chosen. Not for strength, not for wisdom alone, but for your humanity. The spark that makes your species remarkable is alive in you, and it has saved the stars." Elias felt the weight of centuries of isolation lift from his shoulders. The purpose he had long forgotten, buried in the silence of his pod, had returned. He was awake. He was chosen, and he had acted where others would have hesitated. The anomaly was no longer a threat, at least for now, but Elias knew that vigilance, creativity, and courage would always be needed, and he was ready. As the Aurelian fleet returned to their home system, Elias Ward understood something fundamental. Humanity's greatest strength was not technology, not knowledge, not even courage alone. It was the ability to adapt, to think beyond limits, to act when the impossible seemed certain. And that strength had proven itself today. The stars had been saved, not by power, but by ingenuity, not by force, but by human intuition. And in that truth, Elias found hope not just for himself, but for the legacy of humanity that still lived within him. The galaxy had seen what humans could do, and it would never forget. The galaxy was quiet now, but the calm was fragile. The anomaly had been contained, stabilized by the careful guidance of Elias Ward. Yet he knew that the universe did not remain still for long. There were still countless mysteries, countless dangers, and countless opportunities for ingenuity to prove itself. Humanity, through him, had shown its spark, but there was more work to be done. Queen Arathiel stood beside him, on the observation deck of the Aurelian flagship, her shimmering form reflecting the stars beyond. "You have done what no Aurelian could," she said softly. "The galaxy itself owes its survival to a human mind. Yet I sense you are not finished. You are." Thinking beyond this victory, Elias nodded. "It's not enough to just stabilize the anomaly. If something like this exists, others could appear elsewhere. And if humans are gone, there's no one left to adapt, to act when the unexpected comes. I need to ensure humanity's place, even if there are no other humans alive." The Queen considered this, her eyes glowing with understanding. "Then you must take your next step, not as a savior, but as a bridge. Humanity may be few, but the potential you carry can inspire civilizations, strengthen alliances, and protect what remains." Elias felt the weight of her words. The past centuries had been silent and lonely. His awakening had been a second chance, and he had seized it. But now he realized that his role was larger than he had imagined. Humanity's legacy could be preserved not in isolation, but in action, in alliance, and inspiration. The first step was to establish contact with nearby civilizations that had survived the anomaly's reach. The Aurelian Dominion's communication network extended far, but many species were cautious, wary of alien intervention. Elias knew that caution would only be overcome through ingenuity and trust qualities humans had always relied upon. He began with a fleet-wide broadcast, not of commands or warnings, but of guidance. Using the patterns he had discovered within the anomaly, he created a mapping system that demonstrated safe routes, stabilized zones, and energy flow predictions. Any civilization willing to listen could use this information to navigate the chaotic region. Messages came back quickly. Some were skeptical, some wary, but others curious and observant recognized the intelligence and insight behind the broadcast. Over the next few days, Elias coordinated with alien leaders across multiple star systems, teaching them how to adjust energy flows, stabilize sectors, and cooperate in ways they had never considered before. "This is extraordinary," one leader said. "A being with crystalline wings and luminous eyes. We thought the anomaly unstoppable, but a human has taught us to survive and even adapt. Your species is remarkable." Elias smiled faintly. "It's not about being remarkable. It's about adapting, learning, and acting when the impossible appears. That is what humans do." The Queen watched him with pride. "And through you, others are learning the same." Humanity's legacy is not just survival, it is inspiration. With the galaxy slowly stabilizing, Elias turned his attention to the Aurelian archives. There, he discovered fragments of human history preserved in star maps, travel records, and ancient databases. These records spoke of exploration, invention, courage, and resilience, qualities that the Aurelians had long admired but had never fully understood. Elias began restoring these fragments, compiling them in a way that could be shared with other civilizations. "This is what humanity was," he said to the Queen one day. "Not just technology, not just knowledge, but the drive to explore, to survive, to create solutions no one else can imagine." Queen Arathiel nodded. "And now, through you, it lives again. Your species may be few, but its spirit can guide others. You are more than chosen. You are the keeper of a legacy." Elias realized then that his journey was not over. Stabilizing the anomaly had been only the first challenge. Now came the task of ensuring that what humans had achieved and could achieve would not be forgotten. He began organizing expeditions into unexplored sectors, using the knowledge he had gained to guide fleets safely through unknown regions. Each mission was carefully planned, yet flexible, allowing for improvisation and adaptation and embodiment of humanity's greatest strength. During these missions, he encountered civilizations that had never seen humans or who had only heard legends. Many were cautious at first, but Elias's calm confidence, his ingenuity, and his willingness to act under pressure inspired trust. Slowly, alliances formed. Species once isolated and wary began to cooperate, guided by human insight. One such encounter occurred on a planet covered in vast crystalline forests. Its inhabitants had been trapped by a local energy storm, unable to leave their systems safely. Elias calculated a series of energy flows through natural nodes, directing the Aurelian fleet to stabilize the storm. The inhabitants watched in awe as stars realigned, energy balanced, and the storm subsided. You did this?" Their leader asked, eyes wide with disbelief. Elias nodded. "Not alone, but yes. Humans are good at adapting when nothing else works. That is what we bring. That is what you can learn." The story of his deeds spread quickly, carried by messages, fleets, and travelers. Elias became a symbol not of dominance or power, but of ingenuity, resilience, and hope. Other civilizations began to share knowledge, trust human guidance, and even adapt elements of human problem-solving in their own ways. Through these actions, Elias realized something profound. Humans did not need to be numerous to be impactful. Even one human, applying intelligence, creativity, and courage, could inspire entire civilizations, change the fate of star systems, and leave a lasting mark on the galaxy. Queen Arathiel approached him as he stood on the observation deck, watching a distant star system flourish under the stability he had helped establish. "You have done more than I could have imagined," she said. "You have preserved humanity's spirit, not just for yourself, but for countless worlds. And yet, I sense your journey is not finished." Elias smiled, gazing at the stars. "It isn't. Humanity's legacy is more than survival. It is about guiding, inspiring, and protecting. And now that I know what we are capable of, I can make sure that our spark continues, even if we are few." The Queen nodded, her form glowing in quiet admiration. "Then you will remain the chosen, the bridge between species, the keeper of humanity's flame. Your actions will be remembered across the stars." And so Elias Ward, once a solitary human who had slept in isolation for centuries, became more than just a survivor. He became a teacher, a guide, and a symbol of what humanity could achieve. Every fleet he led, every alliance he helped form, every civilization he inspired carried a fragment of humanity's spirit. Years passed, though time was measured differently for humans and Aurelians. The anomaly remained stable. The galaxy grew stronger through cooperation, and Elias continued his work, exploring, learning, and teaching. Yet through it all, he never lost sight of the qualities that had made him human: adaptability, courage, intuition, and the willingness to act when the impossible seemed certain. One evening, as he stood beside the Queen, watching a system of newly stabilized stars, he spoke softly. "I may be the only human alive, but I feel like humanity is everywhere, in every action, every choice, every solution that adapts to a challenge. That is our legacy." Queen Arathiel smiled. "Yes, Elias, humanity lies not in numbers, but in spirit. And through you, that spirit will guide the stars for generations to come." Elias looked out at the infinite expanse of space, feeling a deep satisfaction and purpose. He had been chosen for a reason, and he had embraced that destiny fully. But he also knew that the story of humanity had just begun. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges, mysteries, and wonders. And wherever uncertainty arose, wherever adaptation was required, the spark of humanity would shine. And so, the man who had slept in isolation for centuries now moved among the stars, chosen by an alien queen, shaping the future of civilizations, and ensuring that humanity's ingenuity, courage, and resilience would never be forgotten. The stars, once threatened, now shone brightly, and humanity through Elias Ward had left a mark that could never fade. The galaxy would never be the same again.